Hello, marketers. Welcome to the pilot episode of Bento TV Marketing Over Booze. Although today it's a pilot episode, so we are cutting corners. So I'm getting away with iced lemon tea, some lemon juice, and some water. And with me, Anol, CEO of Get It Comms, a marketing solution provider for technology companies. We have Chester, the regular columnist for B2 Bento, and also the content manager for Get It Comms. And we have Ashutosh Nair, who is also regular contributor of B2 Bento and director of customer advocacy in Get It Comms. So we are going to just wing it. Means we are just going to bring up some topics and let's see where the conversation leads us. So let's start with some, first of all, say hello.
Hi.
Hello. Okay. So let's start with this interesting survey result came out last week by none other than Gallup, and they did a survey of almost more than 1,000 people in America, and the survey says, the headline of the survey result says that Americans say social media have little influence on purchases. Now, it's not B2B, B2C, we don't know. So just by the headline and by the little glancing, what do you get out of it? Start with Ashu.
I think they would like to think that it's not influencing them, but probably subconsciously it is. It would really depend sometimes on the kind of products they are, the services that they had in mind while this question was being asked. Mm-hmm. So it could really be a matter of if it was something personal to them, they probably didn't want to know that, or they probably don't tap into Facebook to find out about to get opinions and feedback about it. Whereas if it comes to something that's, it's a consumer good or it's a technology product, perhaps they might be hovering around Facebook and finding out what people have to say about it. So perhaps the question, the methodology of research has been stated there, but perhaps it's too broad a question to ask.
Okay. Chester, you have any further things to add?
Well, from a B2B perspective, I can understand why they would probably say such things, but from a B2C perspective, I think it's much more relevant. Because one thing that a lot of people tend to overlook is that we are moving into an age where product reviews are no longer that important. We tend to look at how others react when they purchase the same things, and when they themselves write about their experiences and share them around, which is what social media is for. So it's a much more powerful way of spreading your opinion rather than commissioning a review or having something that is seen as branded coming from the manufacturer itself.
Right.
So
you mean product review by professionals like
Yes.
analysts and
Yes.
So do you think really analyst viewpoint is no longer valid, or it's still valid but there are more publishers?
Well, of course it is. Of course the viewpoints of analysts are still valid. I mean, coming from their technical background and such. But like Ashu said, it depends largely on the product. And for most things, especially in the B2C sphere, the opinion of others, the groundswell matters more to people, I think, than reviews, which is what we have been used to all this while, which is why social media is so powerful in influencing people.
Right.
It could also be a matter of age. So that same report has a split of the responses by age. And with the older generation, I think it hit close to 70%, those who said they did not put much weight into that, into social media, whereas millennials, whoever they might be, constituted around 47%, which is still a pretty high number. Mm-hmm. And it's probably again reflective of the kind of posts one makes. Like personally, I don't generally post a lot about what I buy or it's something I've seen new. I generally don't post about it in Facebook. So but that doesn't mean that I don't let Facebook influence my decision. And in my personal case, I don't let it influence. I have my own ways of determining what I need to buy. But when it comes to B2B solutions, I doubt Facebook plays a significant role, because again, what's the intent for which people are on Facebook? The majority of them, especially at the in the generation who is responsible for making B2B decisions, are unlikely to be going to Facebook to either talk about a new solution they are considering or they bought, or even sharing the experiences. They're most likely to do that in other platforms, or just commiserating between each other in their own communities rather than Facebook.
Okay. I have a complete different take on this. My thing is, this kind of survey got no value at all. So imagine just replace social media with anything else, and you meet one person and say that, may I ask you 10 questions, or in this case 3 questions, and you ask, do you think the TV commercial have any effect on your purchase decision? What do you think the answer going to be? Like, yes, TV commercial affects me greatly. It doesn't work in that way, right? So the how you format the question during a survey, that greatly influence how the answer is going to be, right? So that's a big thing. So this is, to me, is kind of a useless information. And also another funny point of that in that same survey, 94% use social media to connect with friends and family. Now, I wonder what the 6% is doing there. What were they're thinking that, like, the 6% do not want to connect with friends and family, so what they're using social media for. But anyway, to me, it's a moot point. Definitely, social media is integrated with our life, intertwined with our life. So definitely, it is making some influence on our purchase patterns and what takes us. So it's a no-brainer. How brands can use this, that's a completely different question. And that kind of segue to our next topic, that is recently most controversial topic, I'll say. That first of all, Forbes reported that Facebook's organic reach is going down in an alarming rate. It's now many companies are reporting they are getting organic reach between 2% to 6%. And later, Facebook spokesperson came out and told the audience in their Facebook blog that kind of accepting that, yes, Facebook organic reach is going down, and they gave many reason for that, and ended up with the statement that comparing Facebook with radio, TV and other medias where you get the maximum output while you're paying. So is this the death of Facebook's organic reach, and what the brand's going to do about it? So let's start with Chester first. So Chester, what do you think about this?
It's not, I mean, yes, Facebook's organic reach is definitely dead, but I think the platform itself will still continue to be used, because there will always be companies with budgets willing to throw away the dollars, paid media. I mean,
Okay.
that's
So
a
paid
given.
media dollars, you're saying. So organic reach, you're saying that through that you can, you are not going much farther.
Sorry?
Organic reach wise, so paid media means, you throw things, you
Yes.
promote the post, you put the
Yes.
advertisement. But organic reach wise,
Organic reach, that's gone for sure. And to me, it just illustrates the dangers of using a platform like Facebook to, especially if you invested heavily into it, to reach out to customers. I think a lot of the companies that have done so are now going to face some serious problems.
right? But don't you think Facebook's still a very, very important platform for brands to use for content syndication, like reaching out to people? But I believe what you're trying to say, it's kind of a putting the all eggs in one basket, that
Yes.
people make the whole Facebook strategy and spend a lot of dollars to acquiring fans and things like that, right?
They should be pushing out their content through other platforms, preferably ones that they themselves own,
Right.
like their own website or their own blog or platforms like that.
Right.
But not something like Facebook where the rules can just change overnight, like they just did.
Right. Ashu?
Some slight differences of opinion there, because I believe those brands with whom we interact in some way, either by liking or by sharing their posts or by commenting on it, I think we'll see those posts more often in our timeline. We're going to see those posts in our timeline. They're not going to be completely sidelined. In fact, the Agora Pulse article that's also related to that, which you referred to, made that point that certain products, certain services are actually still able to achieve their organic reach through to their audience through organic means in Facebook. But of course, this is Agora Pulse who makes their money by selling software that precisely helps companies get that reach. So we don't know how much of weight to put into that. But again, speaking from personal as well as from what I've heard from my peers and friends, they have said that if it's a huge brand, yes, sometimes it's if it's a huge brand that they like and they have interacted with, they are seeing those posts coming in organically. It's not being paid for, in the sense it's not sponsored. But if it's people were on a liking spree for many years, and they might have liked several brands over time. And one of the reasons why Facebook put this in was, obviously, according to their blog post, for overt reason, is people's timeline were being flooded through posts by these brands. So they wanted to put some control over that, and in that process many have been sidelined. I believe those who have been sidelined are those who people might have liked for a specific reason, but it moved on and never really interacted with the brand anymore. So I don't think it's completely dead, yes, but I think the reach is getting limited. So obviously Facebook is encouraging those very brands to spend more, and how ethical or how mean that is, or how
So in other words, it's like a rather steep slope for those brands that people have liked but never really interacted with.
I believe those are one of the brands who are going to find
They
it
have
more
to-
challenging
they
to
have
continue
they have
organic
win back
reach.
those fans, and then the organic reach will start working for them again.
Yes, I believe if they get a few interactions from those from their audience, they would likely see a slightly better reach, at least organically.
Right. It's coming to a chicken and egg situation, that if you're not reaching to your audience, how you're going to get engagement now, and if you're not getting engagement, more and more organic reach will be tougher. To me, I think Facebook's still very, very relevant for both B2B and B2C. I have no problem considering it as a syndication, community building, and just purely content engagement point of view. My point is that basically we should not put all the eggs in one basket, especially if you are not control of that basket itself. So own your content, syndicate in different platforms. One platform goes, another platform comes, it's fine. The core of your content strategy or your brand strategy is still intact, because you are not totally dependent on that particular channel. Problem started when, if you remember a couple of years back, like many of the social media gurus of the conferences we attend were preaching that throw away your corporate website, Facebook is the destination to go. But saying that, coming back to the Agora Pulse survey Ashutosh mentioned, the rise of organic reach only seen by actors, radio, TV, personal website, etc. So of course it is. There is a fanfare in practice and all those things. Whereas by saying steady is the only computers or internet, according to even Agora Pulse, it says 16.2% organic reach. So imagine that you have 100,000 people as your audience, and you only have 16,000 plus people you can reach organically, and from them you have to filter down to the engagement, like likes, comments, etc., etc. So it is tough. It is going to get more tough, because Facebook is a commercial organization, it's a listed company. They have to find more revenue, but at the same time, we cannot completely discount Facebook. We just have to get better at our content and avoid the scenario where we are totally dependent on a third-party platform.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so let's move on. While we are talking about content, let's move on to the details, nitty-gritty of the content. Now, the thing is, we were discussing today morning with Jester, that this three terms, content marketing, content strategy, and brand journalism, it's getting used pretty casually nowadays. Means one replacing another in the vocabulary. So I'm not stuck up in the taxonomy or semantics here, but at the same time, I think we need to make a distinction of what we mean by what, right? So let's start with the content manager himself. What he thinks that what is content strategy, what is content marketing, and what is brand journalism, and get it straight for our audience.
The way I see it, content strategy is something you need to have before you even consider producing or syndicating any kind of content. It's it's your game plan. You need to know what you're going to produce, for what reason, for who, and how you're going to push it out, and all those things you have to take into account. That is having a strategy. Content marketing itself would be the actual act of producing and distributing the content. Now, the interesting thing is brand journalism. This morning I saw a definition that kind of led to the conclusion that it is content marketing for your content rather than content marketing for your brand or for you or your business or whatever. Now I think that is wrong, because to me brand journalism is not something that you carry out. It's not an activity. It's more of an attitude that a brand or an organization must have to bring together everybody in the business or in the organization to, how should I say, to portray themselves to the industry, to the audience, a certain image that reflects that company's values and how they do their business.
Right.
So you could say it's an image thing, it's a reputation thing, and it is part of your content strategy, yeah, but it kind of complements it rather more than being an actual part of it, and it can be done concurrently.
Right. But I would like to add on to the content strategy part, that content strategy is not only that, content strategy also is the FAQ in your site, your user manual, what you ship it with your product. So content is an asset, like, that's not only necessarily restricted within the marketing organization. So your HR manual is also a content. So if I start from the content as an asset perspective, content strategy is the overarching umbrella, and then within that we have content marketing, which is a large section, obviously, that content marketing comes into that. Ashu, you have anything?
Yeah, when it comes to content strategy, the other part that organizations overlook generally is the excitement to create content. A lot of them do not know what they already have, and that is really why it's important to include the auditing as well as the governing of content, or the governance of content within content strategy. So that means that identifying content which will be specific. What is it going to be used for? What will it be its end of life? When is it got to be retired? When is it got to be taken off all the channels? Because certain content is produced for a certain purpose and for a certain defined time limit. So the idea of auditing and governance also comes part of this content strategy, whereas content marketing is really going to be focused more on identifying what's going to work for the right audience, or for the specific audience that we want to sell to or market to, and then creating a whole system or a framework or a campaign framework around that. So strategy has a lot of other components. It's really going into the nitty-gritties. It's going into the fine lines that connect all the pieces of content you have. It includes all the content you have. That means including things like HR manuals and even user manuals and everything, because all of these need to tie together, need to have a common voice, ideally, of course, and need to be seen as coming from a single organization. It's not being produced in isolation, and is not a piece of and it's not something which is ignored or orphaned over time. And we see this many times when we look at corporate websites, and there's one piece of content that's floating around somewhere, gets picked up, and then when it's highlighted, it comes across as it's out of date already. And that's really because of a lack of governance around that content.
Right, and that makes more sense, the governance part of it. And also the biggest tragedy of all of this thing is that we kind of still, especially in Asia, we are still looking at the content from a campaign perspective. So we are guilty as charged. Like, we work with our clients that Okay, a campaign comes in, then we look at the content. The problem with that, the tonality, the feel, the voice, the graphics, the writing style, everything is so varied from one another, from campaign to campaign. And I can justify that, like, that marketers leave quarter to quarter, so they have to show some result and they can't do like a long-term strategy and other thing. But ideally, it should be coming out from the same tonality, same voice, same writing style, and same value proposition. It should not vary in the different thing. But staying on the topic of the content marketing, finally, after all these years of banging our head, we saw the article published in Harvard Business Review. Finally, it says the content marketing revolution. Now, is that the epitome of the paradigm shift in how HBR language we should mention, that we were expecting, that content marketing is finally recognized as one of the viable source of marketing, or viable alternative to, what do you call, mainstream marketing? Nah, it's not. Traditional marketing.
Yeah.
So is that how much importance do you give to that article? What do you get from there?
Well, I wouldn't put much importance on it, but I guess our clients would, because now they have HBR stamp of approval. They can fling it at the faces of their powers to be and say, look, even HBR says this is important.
Right.
And so, release, give me my budgets.
Right. We should fling it to our clients.
Completely.
Yeah. Let's pack it in our next newsletter.
Yeah, but really, it's all about the image, as you know, when the powers that be in the intellectual field, or the thought leaders, so to speak, talk about it, everyone listens. And but obviously, the thought leaders are defiant. They're not there. They need to spend time, make sure that things are really going to a certain direction,
Right.
before they can, talk about it, because people put that much weight. But I think those who go into content marketing after reading this are very late to the game.
Right.
But don't worry, there are people like us to help you out. But just to make sure that it's not something which is new. It's been around for ages, and it's something which has evolved in many ways already through
Right.
several cycles. So, it might pay a little bit of attention to go into some of the sites or some of the resources that actually have been talking about this for years. Get their input and see what has been happening in this,
Right.
so that you know that it's not something that's just emerged from a shell.
Right. No, I looked at the article, I read through in detail. I was expecting something more. Of course, it is from HBR. So I saw the same case study, same GE, same Red Bull, so which is like year-old or 2 years old examples. But as you mentioned, it is right. Many of the people, many marketers will only execute something when something goes mainstream. Like I think I will rename the headline, say that content marketing hipster no more, right? So that can be one way to look at it. It's a mainstream thing, right? Although we are doing it for a long time, but many people
But that also gives hipster always has some negative connotations. So people
True,
might think
true,
that
true.
good that we didn't
And
touch this to this point.
That's
because
right.
it's,
That's right. So let's not bring hipsters and
No
all
offense
those
to
things here.
hipsters
Okay.
around the world.
Okay. So we are hipsters too. That's okay. Let's move on. Let's stay on the content marketing. We still have some more things on the content marketing. 6 ways to make B2B content marketing that's better than the ebook. Comes from the Content Marketing Institute, the Great Content Marketing Institute by Joey Pulizzi and other great folks. So, how to make better content marketing than ebook? And of course, there are lots of things. It's kind of stating the obvious, but at the same time, although it is kind of obvious, I have to say that many still only stuck to ebook, or worse, white papers. So let's start from that point. So what do you suggest to a company which only, I'll start with Ashu, so only promoting as a white paper, or better if it is ebook at all, what else they can look at?
Well, I think when you read that post, it makes a point that it's not that ebooks are bad or going out of fashion. It's just that people today are really out for content that can help them save time and save money. So, and really that content that we provide, if it doesn't do this, it's failed halfway. So then it's really about redeeming oneself with the quality of the material you have there. So we have actually recently came up with something called, we call it the marketing framework, the campaign management framework, where it actually provides a template for you to start putting in all the different considerations as you conceive your marketing campaign. And that at the end of that process, you will be able to get something that you can use to get budgets, to communicate the plan with your colleagues, with your team, and get all their buy-in, that very dreaded word, and then have a ready framework for you to start executing. So things like that, providing templates that help you do different aspects of your campaign and marketing projects, marketing work, are really helpful. And another element I think, given that the article talks about, is interactive tools. So things that people can play around with, work with, and get something at the end of it. So when we came up with something called benchmarking tool, where it allows you to benchmark your company's progress along a certain technology path with peers in your industry, and that provides you with guidance as to where you are and where you would like to go. So things like this I think could be useful. Chester, you had any other thoughts of going beyond ebooks, or how to make ebooks a little more?
Before we jump to Chester, let's put it there. It's a marketing modeling canvas. You can download it from b2bento.com. Just go there and search for marketing model canvas, and it's a free download. You don't have to pay us a single penny. Let's move to Chester.
Right. So the article did mention that, like the marketing model canvas, you can come up with things that help people save time. Things like project management templates, or even like what they describe, collections of stock photos or audio files that they can use in their own creatives. Things that just make life easier for them. And that is the whole point behind this topic.
Right.
That if the ebook isn't giving them some kind of tangible benefit, an immediate and tangible benefit, then it's probably not worth doing. And so it's not about what you should think about creating next, but what you should think about is what you're creating next. Can it do that or not?
Right.
That's the point of this article.
Right. So it's more of a utility terms
Yes,
of point.
completely
I mean,
utility.
it's not a conversation about the medium, or is it a video, or it is an interactivity. It's what is the utility for your clients or your prospects.
Yes.
So it can be ebook if it is usable and create some value, and also it can be ROI calculator, it can be pulse survey, it can be template, things like that, right? So that sounds great. So let's move to our last section, or you have anything
Oh
to
yeah,
add?
there's one more thing, is
Right.
things that can help people take a decision. So
Make a decision,
aids,
okay.
help them make a decision. So it could be questions that they should ask, for
Right.
example. It could be things that they should seriously consider.
Right.
So these are things which, when we position, these are probably things that they already know, but when it's positioned in this manner, it helps, again, really organize their thoughts,
Right.
and makes life a little bit that much easier for them.
Definitely. So I mean, start with what value you're providing to your prospect, and from there determine what kind of content you should have. It can be a video, it can be a game, it can be a template, it can be even an ebook, but serves a purpose, provide a significant value to your prospect, right?
Right.
Otherwise, nobody cares. So let's move out a little bit from the content marketing. We're still in it. But last topic is lead generation versus demand generation. Again, another confusion generally we see in market, many times in our clients too, unfortunately. But let's settle this once for all, that what are the difference of lead generation and demand generation, and what are the tactical or strategic difference in lead gen and demand gen?
So that's a bottle that gets you fresh lemon water every time you drink it. So if you want to know about it, ask Chester.
The citrus zinger. I'm not getting commission for this.
Go ahead.
So I think the key difference between lead gen and demand gen is gating. It's all about gating.
Mm-hmm.
Say you've got a fantastic piece of content, and you know it's going to get a lot of signups. So do you want to put a form in front of that? Because if you do, there's a high chance that people are going to fill up that form and you want to capture their details and all that. But what if your content isn't that fantastic? Like if it's something more generic, some more like good to know rather than need to know. So if you get that, there's not much of a chance that people are going to go through your form to read it. I mean,
Right.
they can probably tell from the headline, and that's a whole different school of thinking, the whole
Right.
headline thing. But rather, you should make it freely available. Take away the barriers, then download it and spread it around in order to create demand. So this is the key difference. The barrier.
That's more of a tactical difference, I'll say. In a
Yes.
strategic viewpoint, there has to be a bigger difference to that. Vashu, you have anything to say about it?
So demand is fundamentally about creating that real sense for that product or that solution among your target market. That there is this problem that you might be having and there is a real solution out there. So creating that problem solution mentality is part of what I believe demand generation is.
Right.
Really just create that demand. Lead generation gets much more specific. It's really about finding out that groups of people who might be specifically interested in your product. So they have a need, a requirement, therefore becomes something which is a very tangible. Whereas demand is really that cloud of interest that you're creating from which you will get those raindrops that eventually become your leads.
Right. Great. So I think we spent quite a bit of time on this various topics. Maybe the topics are a little bit too much. We need to shorten that out. But hey, guess what? This is the pilot episode, and we are not a totally without rehearsal. We are getting into it. So see you next time in Bento TV, Marketing Over Booze. Sorry, Christopher Penn, we stole your podcast, famous podcast. We are a big fan. Marketing Over Coffee, and we one-upped it.
See you.
See ya.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks.